Hey everybody, Jared James here, and welcome to episode 18 of Today with Jared James. Like I say all the time, guys, thank you so much for listening and for subscribing, leaving a 5-star review, and as we always say, please feel free to share this with somebody that you think would benefit from this. Today, I want to talk about a topic that, not just in the real estate industry, but really just in business overall is not focused on because it's not the cool thing. It's not the latest thing. It's not the latest app that is sold for billions of dollars or anything like that. And that is why you need a massive email list and how to grow it, okay? So how do you grow a massive email list and why does it matter? That's what I want to talk to you about today. I'm going to talk to you about 4 different ways to build that list, and I'm going to talk about the 4 different reasons that it's so important. But I want to start off just by saying, because especially in the world we live in today, the easiest way, the quickest way to grow a massive list is to buy a list. And what I'm telling you is that is the dumbest thing that you can do, okay? That is, in essence, what's going to happen is you're going to buy this huge list. You're going to get emailed by people like crazy who tell you, I have a list of this, I have a list of buyers, I have a list of realtors, I have a list of whatever, and you're going to end up buying this list. And then when you look at how email deliverability works, that strategy is never going to work, because what's going to happen is they're going to send out the first 1,000 emails, the first 500 emails, the first whatever it is. Your spam rate is going to go through the roof, and then you're going to get blacklisted. And nobody's going to see your stuff, and nothing's going to work. And ask me how I know this. Because about 10, 11, 12 years ago, when younger guy Jared James was first starting out, I thought, how do I get my message in front of everyone? And I looked it up and I found all these places where you can buy email lists of real estate people. And I tried that, and guess what? I found out that there's no shortcut, and that is true for any industry. Now, the reason why people fall for that and the reason why people sell those kinds of things is because we all know that the list is important. We all know that having contact with people is important, but it's a shortcut. And it's not only a shortcut, it's a shortcut that doesn't work. So I want to start off just by saying that is not a way. Anybody who's trying to teach you that, anybody who's trying to sell you that, they are playing on the fact that you're not thinking long term. They are the latest diet that knows that if you follow it for 1 week, you'll lose 38 pounds, but in 3 weeks, it's going to be back. But for 1 week, you'll go write a nice testimonial. It worked. I was on it for a week. I was 300 pounds. Now I'm 120. And then what happens? 3 weeks later, you're up to 320. And so they're playing off of that idea of what you want and how much you want to get in touch with people, but it just doesn't work. So let me start off by saying that is one way that I will tell you, no matter what anybody tells you, that is not an option. But are email lists still valuable? Are they still important? Well, I think I wouldn't be doing this podcast right now if they weren't. They're extremely valuable. In fact, I would almost go as far to say that they are still probably the #1 marketing strategy for companies like ours and so many other sales companies out there. They're just not talked about because they're not sexy. They're not the coolest thing. Like I said, they're not the latest app. But they're the one thing that hasn't changed. Like when you look at it, I used to have friends on MySpace. They're not on MySpace anymore, but they got the same email now. And as much as deliverability rates have gone down, people still check their email every day, all day. It's just a matter of how you stay in front of them and how valuable the content is. Email still matters. Let's talk about the 4 reasons why it's still important, okay? Number 1, very simply, and you guys have heard me talk about this before, it's direct to consumer. Like email, just like social, the reason why I push social on the level I do is because you're direct to consumer. Like at any moment, I can post something on Instagram, post something on Facebook, send an email, and get any message I want to get out in front of anyone at any time. Without anybody getting in between, without any third party, without any kind of like middleman, without anything, I'm direct to consumer. I've told this story before, but it's just true, guys. When I first started in this business, I used to beg Realtor Magazine to let me write an article for them. Like, beg, please, I'll do anything. Let me write an article, because I knew that my consumers were behind, they were reading that publication. Flash forward now to 10 years later or whatever it is, and guess who now asks me to write articles and says, would you please send this to your email database? Realtor Magazine. Because now I have the massive list and I have direct contact to the consumer that they also want to have as their consumer, and they have some, but they know that I've got that list as well. Email gives you direct access to the consumer, and even more importantly than something like social. I love social, guys. You know that. I love social. I'm on social every day. I use it like crazy. We love social. But when you're talking about an email database, you aren't relying on an algorithm. You know, it's one of the reasons why stories and Instagram and Facebook and Snapchat and these places are still so valuable, is because it's the one place in social that someone still chose to go to. Like, the reason that you see my stuff in your Instagram feed is because the algorithm on Instagram decided that my stuff was valuable enough for you to see it. But it didn't do it with all of my followers. The reason why on Facebook, on my fan page that has about, just the fan page, forget about personal, but has about 30,000 likes. The reason why it doesn't get a ton of interaction when I post something on there is because 99.999% of the people never see anything you post on a business page or a fan page. Why? Because the algorithm didn't deem it was important enough. With email, you are not relying on an algorithm. It's like stories all over again. Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat. People choose to open it, choose to watch it based on whether they want to or not on whether they're lucky enough to have it show up in front of them. That is huge. Second reason why it's so important is that when you have a large email database, this is also what can be used in various other ads platforms like Google, like Facebook, like Instagram, like so many others, to actually create custom audiences. So now you're not only able to be sending stuff directly to people from your email database, but you're also able to take that list, you're able to export it, and now if I want to go do a Google ad or a YouTube ad or an Instagram ad or a Facebook ad or anything like that, I can upload that list and have an ad that targets them specifically. That's powerful, guys. I'm not just hoping people I already have contacts with see it. I'm guaranteeing that it's going to show up in front of them, and that's powerful. The third reason is kind of what I said earlier. It's still the #1 way to market yourself and drive traffic. Go look at and go talk to some of the #1, #2, #5, #15 internet marketers out there, and they'll tell you that, I think I saw one recently, that 59% of their traffic comes from their email database. It comes from them actually sending out an email and then people directly responding from that email. Like, to this day, as much as social is huge, as much as face-to-face is huge, it's still the #1 driver of traffic. And look, guys, I don't even need to quote stats from other companies. Like, I know that. I know that when we're gearing up for something, or we're doing a webinar, or we're trying to sell something, we can put them out on Instagram, we can hang them on a billboard, we can send them out on Facebook, we can do all these different things. I know the #1 driver of traffic, the one that's going to give me the biggest bump in the shorter amount of time, is still my email database. It's still the most direct-to-consumer, immediate response that's out there out of any other thing you can do. It's humongous. The fourth reason why it's so important is because with emails, you own them. And let me explain what you mean. I remember listening to a marketer a few weeks ago, and he talked about how you can't build your content on rented land. And I thought that was very interesting. He said you can't build your content on rented land. And what he essentially meant by that is that if all of your push, if all of your content, if everything you do ultimately lives on, and you are required for people to see it through something like one of those social platforms or something else, you don't own it. Meaning, go back to the other example, people who are creating content on MySpace, 12, 15, people that were creating on Vine, right? People who are creating on these platforms, where are they? What happened? Because you can't build your content on rented land. What's amazing about things like emails or having an email database is regardless of what platform people choose to go to, regardless of what platform that day they decide they're going to give their attention to, regardless of what platform they decide that they're going to spend the most time on for that day in particular, doesn't matter to me, because I know that regardless of what platform they're on in 3 years, regardless of what platform they were on 5 years ago, they were still opening their emails. They still had the same email. It's almost like a cell phone number. And so you can't build your content on rented land. When you have people's email, you have direct to consumer. And yes, are the open rates lower than they used to be? No doubt. In the 90s, there were 99% open rates. Like, I can't even fathom that now. Like, I mean, 99%, people were excited. They'd get that little, hey, you've got mail. And they were excited. How do you respond when you get mail now? Do you think about how quickly you're going to hit the spam button? Do you get pissed off because you're waiting to unsubscribe because you don't even remember subscribing to this particular email? How did they get my email? Do you have a response like they had in the 90s where they get excited, you've got mail? No. Now the open rates are still between 15 and 20%, which seems terrible. But what's your open rate on social and other places? Guys, again, you all know me, I'm all for social. I'm the guy telling everybody, get to social, get to these places, no doubt about it. But the percentage of people on those platforms that actually see your content is between 1 to 2%, okay? Email is still at a 15 to 20% ratio, so who's winning? Email's still winning, even as it has drastically decreased. Email is still the #1 way to get your message in front of your target market. So, now that we've kind of got that out of the way, we understand that a list is important, that getting someone's email is important. How do you build a list? That's really what people want to know. And there's a lot of different ways to build a list. And this is coming from a guy, by the way, I've figured this out. Like in the beginning, I can remember, my God, I remember when we hit 100 people on our email list. Like, I mean, I thought I was going to be rich. I'm like 100 people. Like 100 people subscribed to my email list. I could not, I thought there must have been 99 confused people out there, like didn't know what they had just done. 100. And I look at it now in the tens of thousands upon tens of thousands of people that we have in our list, and it's come from very specific strategies. So let's talk about 4 ways that you can do this, okay? One way you can, whether you're in real estate or anything else, is that you can have a website with forced registration, okay? Now, some people are against forced registration websites because they think to themselves, well, I don't want people to leave my site. You know, if they're looking at it and they're enjoying looking at properties and they're enjoying, and then I make them register to continue and then they leave, I don't have any chance with them. And my response to you would be, if they hang out on your site for 4 hours and never have to put their information in, you don't have a chance with them either. It's like being a storefront without a cash register. Stick around all day, look at anything you want. Oh, no. We don't take any money. We don't take any cash, no credit. Like, you need something as a result of that traffic. So one of the ways you do it is by having a great site. This is why we're releasing websites right now, because we know that this is a great way to build the database and a great way to create leads. And so you have something they want, you've got those properties they want to see or whatever else is on your site, you let them look for a little bit, and then you say, when they click on something to go look at a property they really wanted to see, it goes, great, gonna show it to you, just need a name and email. Now, will everybody fill it out? No. But a lot more will going forward than are right now. Because right now you're not getting any. So that's one great way to do it. Second way you can do it, giveaways, guys. Valuable reports, something of value is a great way to build a list, okay? And what I mean by that is you can have articles, you can have guides like buyer guides, 10 things to look for when buying in so-and-so county. You can have seller guides, 5 things to do to get at least 10,000 more for your home, a free buyer's guide, a free seller's guide, an inspection guide, these things that are extremely valuable that you're not going to charge somebody money, but in order to get it, name and email. I mean, isn't that essentially what we're doing with free valuation ads? When you put a valuation out and go, hey, want to know what your home's worth? Name and email. I'll give you your value. You're creating something of value in order to get something in return that's very easy for them to give, a name and an email. But you know that that email in the long term ultimately is going to give you contact with them for the long term. And I want you guys to understand this too. Email is a long-term play. Like, the reason why at events I stopped selling on the spot and I started collecting emails, because I'm playing the long term. I know, and by the way, that brings us to our third point, which is to make it easy. A lot of you listening to me right now are listening to me right now because you came to a live event of mine sometime in the last however many years, and at the end, when most people would have said, I've got a booth in the back and I'm going to sell you this and I'm going to whatever, I went, hey guys, a lot of that stuff I just taught you, the templates, the scripts, the dialogues, all these things, I'm not going to ask anything of you. I'm not going to ask you to buy anything. I'm simply going to give you a free page on our site that gives you all the templates for free, all the scripts for free, all the training by video for free, everything for free. Just send an email to yes@jaredjamestoday.com. Send an email to yes@jaredjamestoday.com. And what we found was that all of a sudden, whereas in the past, I used to sell when I was in front of audiences, and we'd close a high percentage of them, but they'd only stick around for 2 to 3 months because once the emotion was gone, they were no longer bought in. That when I started playing the long term, I started giving out that email to give them free stuff. Now 70% of every single audience I go to goes into our database. And now they start watching my content on a regular basis and following me on social and getting involved with my stuff. And now it may take 6, 12, 18, 24 months before they sign up for anything. But when they do, they stick around for years. Because I was playing the long game. But more importantly, from the perspective of how to build a list, I made it easy. I set it up where everybody who sent an email to yes@jaredjamestoday.com would automatically be added into my CRM and would now be somebody that I have all access to. So that every time I came out with a video, here you go, new content. Every time I come out with a podcast, here you go, guys. Why is it that we launched our podcast, 4 months ago, 3 months ago, 4 months ago, whatever it was? We just got named a top 100 or top 200 podcast in all of iTunes. How did that happen? Because the moment I decided to launch it, we had a massive database that we could go, here you go, guys, go watch. Because I did exactly what it is that I'm trying to teach you, okay? Make it easy. Have those forms, have those trainings you can do for people that's going to benefit them, and then make it easy for them to get it. Simply send an email to this. Simply send a text to this. There's a million companies that do this on Google and other places. Go look them up. That'll set this up for you. Go on Fiverr, Fiverr.com. Go on Upwork. There are places that will do this for you in like 20 minutes and you're done, but have something that makes it easy for them to join your database. Fourth way to create or build a big list is to create great content, to house it on your site, and allow viewers to subscribe. What do I mean by that? So ultimately, I think it makes sense that more people want to subscribe to someone with good content than people who subscribe to people with bad content, right? Would you agree when you listen to someone, if they have great content, more apt to listen to them? I like what they have to say. When you listen to somebody and it's terrible, you're probably not going to go subscribe, right? So great content is part of it, but part of it also is take that content and house it on your site. Put it on your site so when they come and they listen to it, whether it's your video, whether it's a blog that you have going, whatever that content looks like, whether it's your podcast, whether it's that way you can actually take advantage while the iron is hot. Meaning, you're sitting here listening to this on my site. You're watching a video on my site. You're reading a blog on my site. You're going, I love this person's stuff. This is the 5th time that I've watched this person. This is the 5th time I've read something this person's done. This is the whatever. And now there's a pop-up on your site that says, want to know when these come out? Want to know? And all they've got to do is put in their email. Nice and easy. Nice and easy. That's how you do it. Or is there something on every one of your sites where they can actually put in their information to subscribe? They're not going to subscribe unless you're actually coming out with great content. And how did we decide previously on a previous podcast how you create great content? How do you come up with great content? How do you figure out what to talk about? Listen to your consumers. What questions do they ask you? What emails do they send you? What do you see other people similar to you in other parts of the country or other parts of the world talking about? Those are probably things you should be talking about. Why am I talking about this right now? Why do we talk about the things we talk about on a regular basis? Why do we have a whole page long full of potential topics? Because we're listening to our consumers, but it's not enough just to listen. You've then got to create the content, and then you got to make it easy for them to subscribe or easy for them to put their email in. So, 4 ways to actually build the list: have a site with forced registration, have some kind of giveaways, make it easy, reports, valuations, articles, make it easy like I've done with the yes@jaredjamestoday.com, and then create great content, house it on places on your site so that while they're there, a pop-up can actually come up and say, hey, you want to know when more like this comes out? You want to know? That's how you start collecting emails on a regular basis. Now, if you're going to do that and you want this strategy to actually work, you have to, with your database, stay consistent and send actual value. So stay consistent. What you'll notice if you're in our email database, we send out content every single Thursday. and that's not an accident. So we do a Jared James Today show from YouTube every other Thursday, and on the off days, we send a new podcast. And you know, if you're in our database, which chances are you are if you're listening to this, you know that every Thursday morning you get a new email from me that has a title and says new video, or has a title and says new podcast, and you are let known of new content every single week. And it's consistent. And not only is it consistent, it's good value. We're not just selling you on a regular basis. We're not just sending out 5 emails a week that go, sign up for coaching, sign up for marketing, hire me to speak, hire me to, because you would get tired of that and say, never mind. Okay? Now you'll actually respond to those things when you get nothing but value, 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 but we are consistent. You know that every Thursday that's going to happen. So look at your own life, look at your own world, look at Marketing 101 in a 2019 year and beyond, and go, how can I be consistent? How often? You may not be able to create content as often as I do, but I promise you, you can create it more often than you are right now. I can promise you that. Now that may mean you need someone to keep you accountable. It may mean that you need your coach to keep you accountable. It may mean that you need your assistant to keep you accountable. It may mean that you need your 12-year-old daughter to keep you accountable. Like whatever it's going to take for you, consistency is the key so that they know what to expect, right? Not just selling stuff, actual value. If you follow these steps, guys, if you understand why it's important, if you understand that you're direct consumer, you understand that it allows you to create custom audiences, you understand emails are still the #1 way to market yourself and drive traffic, when you understand that emails are important because you own them, you can't build great content on rented land, and you understand how to build a list, if you follow this, guys, you'll build a much larger list than you have now, and you'll come from even more a position of strength.